now present For the Record.
Welcome to For the Record. I'm Will Kenneally. It's been a busy week in both national and local politics. President Joe Biden delivered his annual State of the Union address, and we'll hear from Wisconsin congressmen about their reaction to this election year address. Now, the day before, Vice President Kamala Harris toured a bus garage under construction here in Madison to talk labor.
The work that is happening here really is a wonderful example of so many of our administration's priorities, including the important collaboration between us at the federal level and leaders at the local level, like the mayor of Madison.
How do you beat Donald Trump in Wisconsin, Madam Vice President?
How do you feel about it? Vote at a time.
And capping this busy week, the presidential race is all but set. The slate of primary states voting this week, the Super Tuesday states, yielded strong results for former President Trump. His last remaining contender, Nikki Haley, dropped out on Wednesday.
I said I wanted Americans to have their voices heard. I have done that. I have no regrets. And although I will no longer be a candidate, I will not stop using my voice for the things I believe in.
Now, even still, this has implications for Wisconsin's presidential race as our own voters head to the polls April 2nd. For more now on what we can take away from this is UW-La Crosse political science professor Anthony Chergosky. And thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Will.
So I'm going to steal your line here. You often talk about Wisconsin being not that relevant in the presidential primary process, but incredibly important in the fall elections. So for Wisconsin voters looking ahead to April, is there much left to vote for in the presidential primary?
There really is not, because Nikki Haley has dropped out of the contest, meaning that Donald Trump has locked up the Republican nomination. Besides, Will, we don't have a blockbuster Wisconsin State Supreme Court race on the ballot as we did in 2023. So between the lack of any intrigue for the presidential nomination and the lack of a state Supreme Court race, it's going to be a pretty sleepy April election. There is a lot for people to still vote for, whether that is school funding measures or local courts or other local elections. But we're missing the high-profile statewide election this time around.
Yeah, of course, which is not to say everybody please go out and vote. Just perhaps a little bit of a smaller one, but please still go do. Back in 2016, though, it was the last time that we saw a contested Republican primary in Wisconsin, and the state did not end up voting for then candidate Trump. Will there be any parallels to draw from Wisconsin turnout from 2016 to this year at all?
It's going to be really tough to know, because in 2016, there was still some competition between Donald Trump, Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, John Kasich. There was a little bit of intrigue left, a little bit of competition still going on by the time we got to Wisconsin in the 2016 cycle. But now we are already in general election mode. So Wisconsin is going to hold its primary while we're already looking ahead to the November election. You know, one thing that is going to set this election apart from previous presidential elections is the length of the general election campaign. And I mean, like, already we are in general election mode, and that is unusual because typically in at least one of the two parties, there's still some uncertainty surrounding who would be the nominee at this point in the cycle. But I also wonder if voters tune out the campaign because it's going to be such a lengthy affair. So I think that's something I'm watching as we head towards November.
Yeah, we've already started to see the ads, especially in the Senate race down here in Madison. I also want to ask, we've seen a lot of Wisconsin neighbors in their Democratic primaries vote this uncommitted vote instead of voting for Biden. But it's a decent percentage of voters. Is that worrisome for the Biden campaign at all?
I think there are warning signs on both sides here. For Democrats, it's exactly as you said, Will. There are some people who are not voting for Joe Biden. They're voting uncommitted. We saw quite a bit of those votes in Minnesota. The Biden campaign is going to need to get those folks back in the fold by the time we get to November if they want to win the election. Meanwhile, Nikki Haley got a decent chunk of the vote in a lot of those Super Tuesday states. She only won one of them. She only won Vermont, but still, she did pretty darn well in a number of key geographic locations, most notably suburbs, more affluent areas, more highly educated areas, those areas with a higher concentration of people who had attended college. Those areas have been Donald Trump's weakness, and Nikki Haley doing well in those areas could be a sign of trouble for Donald Trump in November.
I was going to say, do we know yet where those Nikki Haley voters will split? Are they ticket splitters where they might vote Democratic in the general election?
They could. Ticket splitting has really declined quite a bit due to the increasing political divide, the trends of polarization and partisanship. But ticket splitting still does happen. And I think the Biden campaign might try to get some of those Nikki Haley voters to pull the lever for Biden in November, even if those voters typically do vote Republican in some other races.
So I'm going to ask you to peer into your crystal ball here. What do you think the headline will be April 3rd after this election?
I think the headline will be that Wisconsin's primary is in the rearview mirror, and we are full speed ahead to Wisconsin potentially being the decisive state in the Electoral College. Nothing has changed really when it comes to the fundamental dynamics of the general election. It basically comes down to 6 states: Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Nevada, Georgia, and Arizona. And out of those states, Wisconsin could very well be the decisive state. So the presidential election will be fought in a very limited number of states due to the Electoral College, and Wisconsin could indeed be the most pivotal of that small group of states.
Anthony Chergosky, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Will.
Now, when we come back, Dane County Congressman Mark Pocan joins us from Washington to discuss what we heard during this week's State of the Union. And later, we'll check in on the other side of the aisle with Congressman Glenn Grothman. We'll be right back after this.
This portion of News 3 Now is sponsored by Madison Gas and Electric.
A logo can do more than identify your company. It can connect in meaningful ways, energize your team, and inspire your customers. We're 4imprint, and we know your logo on the right product can create moments that matter. With 30 years of experience and thousands of products to choose from, we guarantee your order will be right the first time, on time, and for a great price. Be certain that the right moments will matter. Explore thousands of promotional products at 4imprint.com.
4imprint, for certain.
My husband and I finally agreed that we need a new bathtub and shower, so he went right to work on it. I think he's procrastinating.
For a new bathtub or shower, just call 1-800-HANSONS. Installed in as little as 1 day with optional safety features and a no-leak guarantee. Get 60% off installation or no interest, no payments for 2 full years. Offer ends soon.
Call 1-800-HANSONS. Get it done.
So we spend 1/3 of our lives sleeping. Shouldn't we try to get the best sleep possible? That's why Denver Mattress is all about that sleep life. And during the 4-day super sale, the more you buy, the more you save. Save $100 on every 1,000 you spend. Check out the Summit Firm for only $299.99, or save $300 on any Telluride. Plus, 4 years no interest, no down payment, and free shipping. Improve your sleep life one night at a time. Only at Denver Mattress, the easiest way to get the right mattress.
To everyone who believes in tradition, come enjoy a few of ours from Wisconsin.
People in Wisconsin love a good fish fry.
Really love. And we love sharing it with guests everywhere.
At Culver's, we still batter our North Atlantic cod by hand to order.
And we cook it to a crispy, golden perfection just for you.
For you.
For you.
So it's crispy outside, flaky inside. Let us take care of you.
With some homegrown traditions we were raised on.
From Wisconsin with love.
Welcome to Delicious.
Welcome back. President Joe Biden delivered his annual State of the Union address this week, one of the major speeches that we'll see him deliver as he gears up to run for re-election this fall.
That tonight, we can proudly say the state of our union is strong and getting stronger.
Joining us now for a recap of what we heard this week, Dane County Congressman Mark Pocan. And thanks so much for joining us.
Sure, glad to be here.
So what were your overall takeaways from the speech?
Well, I mean, I think, we saw the contrast of, what the Biden administration has been about and what he wants to do. And I think, what other possibilities are out there. It's real clear. He talked about all he accomplished in those first 2 years when we had a Democratic House and Senate, and we got big bills done around infrastructure and lowering costs for Americans and making things here in America again. And then what he'd like to do again, the problem is this current Congress, as I think everyone knows, is pretty broken. I think we only passed 27 bills all of last year. he wants to get things done again. So, I think you really saw that contrast of, when he first became president and got a ton of things done, what he still would like to do, and really trying to motivate Congress and the American people to get it done.
So I've heard from Democrats that a strategy for this year's campaign will be to use reproductive health care as a way to kind of make tangible what's at stake for voters. This also comes in the wake of the Alabama Supreme Court ruling on IVF. So here's the president on this on Thursday.
Guarantee the right to IVF. Guarantee it nationwide. My predecessor came to office determined to see Roe v. Wade overturned. He's the reason it was overturned, and he brags about it. Look at the chaos that has resulted.
So we also heard there President Biden reference former President Trump, dropping essentially the pretenses that this is not a campaign speech. Did that set the right tone ahead of November?
Well, I think, a lot of people's freedoms are at risk right now, whether it be the ability to make decisions about your own body. I mean, the whole fight in Alabama, this is just about people who can't have kids, who want to try to have kids. And the fact that there was a political fight over that just shows how extreme the agenda of some in Congress and outside of Congress have gotten. So I think, he's just laying out what the reality is for the American people. Whether you want to have a vibrant democracy, which I think can be at risk, whether you want to have your personal freedoms to make your own decisions about your body, all of those things are really at risk right now in this country. And whether it be on the ballot in November or whether it just be day to day in places like Congress or in the state legislature in Madison, they're important. And I think that's what he was really stressing.
Yeah, so injecting politics into the proceedings, certainly with a couple of outbursts on Thursday, including one from one of your colleagues, Derek Van Orden. Here he is speaking to reporters after the address.
Is it appropriate for you to yell out lies when the president is addressing you guys?
Is it appropriate to tell the truth? Should the President of the United States address the entire world and say blatant untruths? Should he do that?
But isn't there a better way to do that than heckling him?
I don't think anybody heckled the President of the United States.
So how theatrical have these events become recently?
99% of members behaved like members of Congress. Marjorie Taylor Greene was Marjorie Taylor Greene, and unfortunately, Derek Van Orden was Derek Van Orden. Yells out loud during the speech, desperate for attention. Look, that's unbecoming of a member of Congress. He's embarrassing to our state. We look like a bunch of drunken fools when he does that. And he owes, I think, the president an apology. We don't do that. Midwest nice. Upper Midwest nice, Wisconsin nice has a meaning, and it doesn't mean that you're yelling out outbursts just to get attention during a State of the Union speech. So, Derek Van Orden needs to do the right thing, and that's and don't be embarrassing for one, but two, apologize to the president.
So we did see, though, back during the Trump administration, former Speaker Pelosi notably tear up the president's speech behind him. Is there any equivalency to be drawn here? Is this just kind of where we are politically?
Well, let's face it, the last president had a TV show, right? Celebrity Apprentice. There's a merging of governmental leaders and entertainment sometimes. And I think what we've learned is I'd rather have people who have expertise in government, like Joe Biden, than people who have expertise selling detergent between commercial breaks. And we should realize that as a country. But for some folks, they just like the entertainment value of it. I want to make sure that we're getting things done. This Congress has been an embarrassing Congress as well. 27 bills last session is just unbelievably low number. We're not getting things done. We finally are getting budget bills done that were due September 30th of last year. Look, let's get the work of Congress done. Let's work with the president. Let's compromise where we need to compromise because there's split government, but outbursts on the floor and desperate attempts to get attention aren't going to get us there.
We also saw a number of Midwestern states, including Minnesota, this week cast a portion of their votes for uncommitted in the Democratic primary. I want to play you this.
To the leadership of Israel, I say this. Humanitarian assistance cannot be a secondary consideration or a bargaining chip. Protecting and saving innocent lives has to be a priority. As we look to the future, the only real solution to the situation is a two-state solution over time. And I say this as a lifelong supporter of Israel. My entire career, no one has a stronger record with Israel than I do. I challenge any of you here.
So did the president do enough on the Israel-Hamas conflict to keep some of those wavering voters in the camp?
Yeah, I mean, he's got a tough balancing act, right? We're talking about a very difficult region of the world. We have a country like Israel that's been an ally, was attacked on October 7th by a terrorist organization, Hamas, that's had an over response that's killed 30,000 people, the majority being women and children. And clearly that's wrong. And I think what the president's trying to do is get aid right now to people in Gaza, trying to change the course that perhaps Benjamin Netanyahu has been taking with this war. And, you know, what we really need to do at this point is make sure that we're stopping the bombing, a ceasefire, is I think what many of us have asked for, get humanitarian aid out. And let's recognize Palestine as a state. I mean, a two-state solution, I think, has been the position of the U.S. government. And the fact that Benjamin Netanyahu doesn't believe in that is a problem because at the end of the day, we want peace in the region. We don't want to send American men and women to ever have to, be in a conflict in the region. And the best way we do that is by having a two-state solution that I think it's been decades we've been advocating for.
Do you think that resonated with Democrats, though, enough to bring them back into the fold?
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, at the end of the day, it's unbelievable to watch the destruction that's happened in Gaza and the amount of deaths. And it's really been, I think, a collective punishment by Benjamin Netanyahu. I'll tell you, every time I'm at the region, people of Israel just don't want to have bombs coming out of Gaza at them. People in Gaza, in the West Bank, who are Palestinian, just want to be treated with respect and dignity, have human rights. It's possible. I think people in the region have a very different approach than some of their governmental leaders. And, let's face it, Benjamin Netanyahu, if he's not leader, he's facing a criminal indictment, would likely be going to jail. He's doing everything he can to protect himself, but that's not in the United States' interest. And we have to be very cognizant of that.
Congressman Pocan, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, no problem, Will. Thank you. Good seeing you.
Now, when we come back, Congressman Glenn Grothman joins us for the Republican perspective. We'll be right back after this.
Hanson's knows what your home means to you. It's where you feel safe, comfortable, protected, and of course, no other place provides you with as much joy. That's why our durable, energy-efficient, and weather-resistant windows, roofing, siding, and gutters, as well as our bathtubs and showers, are all backed by our guarantee. So you can feel happy in your home for years to come. With professional installation and thousands of 5-star reviews, we're your trusted home improvement expert, exceeding homeowners' expectations for over 30 years. Get 60% off installation with high-quality craftsmanship you can count on. Or enjoy no interest and no payments for 2 years. From windows to roofing to siding to gutters to bathtubs and showers, no one's got you covered like we do.
Call 1-800-HANSONS. Get it done.
Chipotle's braised beef barbacoa might be our best kept secret. Slow cooked, responsibly raised beef, seasoned with garlic and cumin. Hand shredded for fall to fork tenderness. Chipotle's braised beef barbacoa. If you know, you know.
Come on, Michael, come on. Catch the ball! Huddle up! Do you need to get your eyes checked? Well, actually, here's the play. Stanton Optical makes glasses in 30 minutes. It's easy on 3. 1, 2, 3. Easy! Hut! Come on, Michael, you got this! Come on, turn! Michael, catch! I didn't see! You did it! I did it! 30-minute glasses? Now that's an easy play. Stanton Optical. Easy's our thing.
Campaign 2024 is heating up in battleground Wisconsin, and News 3 Now is bringing you complete team coverage throughout this crucial election year. From the candidates to the issues that matter to you, the voters. Campaign 2024 on News 3 Now, moving forward.
Welcome back. President Biden's State of the Union address was met with criticism from Republicans. Alabama Senator Katie Britt delivered this year's Republican response.
America deserves leaders who recognize that secure borders, stable prices, safe streets, and a strong defense are actually the cornerstones of a great nation. Just ask yourself, are you better off now than you were 3 years ago?
Joining us now for more on where the speech fell short is Congressman Glenn Grothman, who represents Wisconsin's 6th Congressional District, covering part of Columbia County here in our viewing area. And thanks so much for joining us.
Glad to be on with you guys, as always.
So I want to start there first. We heard from your colleague, Mark Pocan, earlier in the show about what we did hear in the speech. But from your perspective, what didn't we hear?
I was surprised he didn't decide to do something on the border. I mean, we were in December at a point where over 350,000 people came here in a month. That was, basically 3 years into President Biden's term. So we know what he wants to do. He wants to get as many people here as quickly as possible. But I still thought in an election year, for political purposes, he might come up with something that would reduce that amount. And I was surprised he didn't. He wanted Congress to act. But we went from 20,000 a month to over 350,000 a month without Congress doing anything. There's a lot of flexibility that only the president has, and the Congress can't force him to do. And like I said, I was expecting President Biden to say, we're going to reduce the number of people every month to 100,000 or 50,000 or something. And then if he got reelected, he'd pop that number back up. But last night it was basically, I'm going to leave the border open. And if we have another 200,000 people, 250,000 people a month come here, too bad.
We also heard the president touch on some of these issues of quote-unquote democracy, talking about January 6th, and also the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. I want to play back this clip from the Republican response.
We've become a nation in retreat. And the enemies of freedom, they see an opportunity. Putin's brutal aggression in Europe has put our allies on the brink.
So, Congressman, question to you. It seems like there may be some agreement between both sides of the aisle on this Ukraine issue. Why have we seen Ukraine funding stall recently?
Because we are losing our country at the border. And I think Mike Johnson, I'll agree with on this, if you're going to get President Biden to move, you have to begin to hold up other things. Not to mention, for 3 years, we've been waiting for somebody to say we got to do something at the border. And there's always something else that's more important this week or this month. The most important thing facing this country is what's going on the southern border. Once we get that number back down to 50,000, 40,000, 20,000 a month, then it's time to look at the other problems. I think Mike Johnson, the speaker, has made it clear that once the border situation is taken care of, he'll take up a Ukraine bill. And he will vote for the Ukraine bill, even though before he was speaker, he was not for funding Ukraine.
We also heard the president chart a course for the U.S. involvement in the Israel-Hamas conflict. Was that what Republicans were hoping to hear, and what should the country's role broadly be on the world stage?
Well, it was a little frustrating because what we need in the Gaza area is clear thought that the fault here rests with Hamas. Okay, the answer is not to make sure we give more money to Hamas or tell Israel to stop fighting. Hamas is the one who started it. Hamas is the one who's got to stop fighting. And once they stop fighting, once they surrender, that will be very good for the humanitarian aspect of what's going on in this world. But President Biden is one of these people who looks at Hamas and looks at Israel and thinks they're equivalent. They're not equivalent. The Israelis are not chopping off the heads of little babies, my goodness. So I was disappointed in that he has a hard time saying who's in the right and who's in the wrong in that part of the world.
And there are also a handful of outbursts during the speech, including from one of your Wisconsin colleagues, Derek Van Orden. Do you agree with this tactic there? And is this kind of what we're expecting from politics now going forward?
Well, I think Congressman Van Orden is a passionate guy. And whether you're looking at what's going on in the border, I know Derek Van Orden went to Israel. He saw the places where so many people were being killed. And when you see something like that, you have a hard time holding your tongue at all time. Derek Van Orden's an emotional guy, and I think that emotion is one of the reasons why he's so liked in his district.
And so broadly, we're looking at this speech as, it's supposed to be about government, but it's a very political speech, especially in an election year. What should Wisconsinites take away from the speech heading into November?
Well, the biggest crisis in this country was going on the southern border. And as far as people were hoping that 350,000 figure. I guess it dropped a little in December, but you're not going to see a lot of action from President Biden. And I sure hope we don't have to wait for a new president to cut off the spigot down there.
Congressman Grothman, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on, and call me anytime.
We will indeed, sir. Thank you. And we'll be right back after this.
MG&E, building your community energy company for the future through the power of working together. Committed to cleaner, more sustainable energy, driven by innovation, fostered by shared values. Visit MGE2050.com.
So we spend a third of our lives sleeping. Shouldn't we try to get the best sleep possible? That's why Denver Mattress is all about that sleep life. And during the 4-day super sale, the more you buy, the more you save. Save $100 on every $1,000 you spend. Check out the Summit Firm for only $299.99, or save $300 on any Telluride. Plus, 4 years no interest, no down payment, and free shipping. Improve your sleep life one night at a time. Only at Denver Mattress, the easiest way to get the right mattress.
Here's your parachute. Packed it myself.
Certain it's okay?
Mm-hmm.
Are you for imprint certain?
Certainty matters, like the certainty of congratulating coworkers or saying thank you for being a customer with promotional products from 4imprint. Our expert team is dedicated to making your satisfaction a certainty.
Packed it myself.
Land the perfect products at 4imprint.com.
4imprint, for certain.
We really need new siding.
After I get my windows. Have you tried opening ours?
We're not touching the windows until we redo the roof. It's leaking.
Happy spouse, happy house.
Exactly.
Wait. Everyone can agree on 1-800-HANSONS because our windows, roofing, siding, and gutters are all guaranteed for life, and our baths have a no-leak guarantee. Get 60% off installation or no interest and no payments for 2 full years.
Call 1-800-HANSONS. Get it done.
MG&E, building your community energy company for the future through the power of working together. Committed to cleaner, more sustainable energy, driven by innovation, fostered by shared values. Visit MGE2050.com.
Join me in the 608 weekdays on News 3 Now this morning.
Welcome back. We're looking ahead to next week, which is expected to be a busy one here in Wisconsin. The state Senate is expected to wrap up their work for the year on Tuesday, and on Wednesday, the president is expected to fly into Milwaukee. Now, this is the second time in a matter of months the president has traveled to the city. And around this time last year, President Biden was in DeForest for his first public event after last year's State of the Union. And that does it for us this week. I'm Will Kenneally. Have a great rest of your weekend.